section chair for delivering his welcome remarks. Prof. Wisnu.
Thank you, Mbak Ovi. I will start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sincerely, colleagues, researcher, professional, distinguished guests, greeting, prospective, warm, and enthusiastic. On behalf of IEEE Indonesia section, we would to all keynote guests from Australia, Professor Emeritus Fung. He is also the chair of IEEE Asia Pacific or Region 10 Education Activity. And all participants of the IEEE webinar, welcome. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you here today. We are glad you join us and participate in the webinar on topic encouraging technology-driven class using IEEE resources. Once again, thank you for coming. The purpose of this webinar is to encourage STEM teacher, particularly those of the secondary school, to create technology-driven classes by utilizing IEEE resources such as try engineering, try computing, try nano, and etc. And we hope you will have a productive and enjoyable time and this very special webinar. And putting together this webinar is not any easy task. We thank to who work together to help us build this very interesting webinar, especially to Mbak Ovi, ya, Mbak Mufiza Rahman, ya. She have a very strong effort so that maybe this seminar will be established. So we hope you will join us to make this webinar an unforgettable event. Thank you for your coming. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Wisnu Jatmiko, for your welcome remarks. Now, just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box. I'll bring them up after the presentation, and we will also have question and answer session after the talk. Now, without further ado, we will turn time over to our first speaker, Dr. Iwan Kustiawan. Dr. Iwan Kustiawan is Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Bandung. He earned his PhD degree, majoring in electrical engineering from National Yunlin University of Science and Technology, Taiwan in 2017. He contributed in conducting research concerning heterogeneous wireless networks and data fusion. Additionally, he was assigned as reviewer in reputed journals, that is IEEE Communication Letters and Digital Signal Processing. Besides his publication in the area of teaching and learning improvement using innovative media, he serves as the head of Electrical Engineering Study Program and Tpec Research Center in UP. In the professional community, he serves as a chairman of IEEE Education Society Chapter, IEEE Indonesia section, one of members of IEEE Asia Pacific Educational Activities Committee. All right, Dr. Iwan, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Opi, for giving me time. Let me check my subscribe. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, the Honorable Professor Wisnu Jatmiko. Thanks for giving us a welcoming speech. The Honorable Professor Lanchapong, thank you for joining in this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, in this time, I would like to present my talk entitled Encouraging Technology-Driven Class Using IEEE Resources. Yes, this is the outline of my presentation. First one, an introduction, then technology integration in learning, then interdisciplinary learning approach, IEEE resources, and finally, summary. So let's move to the next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see in the graph, in the picture, so now we are facing a COVID-19. So based on the data from UNESCO, we can see the global monitoring of school closures caused by COVID-19, around 1 million learners affected by COVID-19, and around 60.5% total enrolled learners caused by this pandemic, and more than 106 countrywide closure. So this figure corresponds to the number of learners enrolled at the pre-primary level, primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary levels of education. So as you can see in the picture, the pink color indicates the localized situation in the school. But I heard from Professor Lanchapong, so Australia is still open, right? Yeah, thank you. So this indicates that education must go on, right? And we keep a long life learning. So even pandemic, we need to continue our teaching and learning process. Then because of pandemic, so we face a new era, new pedagogy of teaching. Because in this situation, during pandemic, we are encouraged to explore new skills, new technology, new way of thinking, and the web-based teaching that should be best leveraged, even though it's difficult, yeah, for starting. But yeah, in this moment, of course, high-speed internet will democratize the teaching methodologies. We can imagine if there are the network supporting in this learning process, so we cannot do such educational process. And then during pandemic, we are facing the teaching from local to global. I mean, the student in a country, say Indonesia, can join courses in MIT or other universities around the world without leaving Indonesia. Just sit in home, just sit in your home. We can learn something from other university. It indicates that teaching and learning shift the paradigm from local to global. And then virtual classroom are so popular like this, like today. So virtual classroom, virtual seminar, we will find every day. Yeah. Then private learning academies are getting popular because they provide learning online learning platform and modules. So every people around the world in urban and in rural, so can learn something joining in the private learning academics program. So we cannot avoid that learning revolution is coming because of pandemic. Yes, this is, I think, a blessing in disguise. How to continue our education even though the supporting technology or other aspect, yeah, haven't yet optimal. Okay, please allow me to cite the quote from LeVar Burton. You know, LeVar Burton is an American actor, playing in Star Trek. If we marry educational technology with quality, enriching content, that's a circle of win. Yeah. This indicates that technology is very important aspect to support the learning process. Ladies and gentlemen, so we can view, yeah, the portrait of technology integration in teaching and learning, yeah, during pandemic. So we can see the technology-rich society because we are encouraged to explore new tools and strategies for empowering students, yeah, in actively participating in a connected network. And unfortunately, some kids, some students still struggle to get online, not only in rural communities, but also in urban communities. And this is the issue. And some teacher deliver his learning content by video, yeah, in order to deliver about insight of science, knowledge to the students without in direct interactive physically, because we are still keeping a social or physical distancing. But no matter, education must go on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the technology integration. So I learned from this, the proposal, the model from Dr. Ruben. He proposed the model, it called the Salmon Model. The Salmon Model is the hierarchy of technology in supporting learning. So there are four levels, starting from substitution and augmentation level, and then modification and redefinition level. So with this model, the educator or teacher can have a role how the technology can support in their learning and teaching process. So the substitution means now we can replace traditional modes to digital version. And then augmentation, how the teacher can involve in incorporating interactive digital media. In this level can enhance or enhancement, yeah, in teaching and learning process. And the next level is modification, or teacher can think like LMS, Google Classroom model, or another platform. So this technology can modify some methodology in uh, teaching process. And finally, the level of Salmon Model is redefinition. Redefinition means the learning experiences to achieve a goal of learning. I say the change of behavior, right? Because the redefinition is the ultimate goal, ultimate goal for the teacher in conducting teaching process. Yes, the Salmon Model is very important in which technology can support in teaching and learning process. And so we can find the relation between Bloom's taxonomy and Salmon Model for the inquiry process linked cases. Yeah. I believe you are a participant, you are educator, you are the teacher, you know about the Bloom's taxonomy. He proposed the kinds of cognitive domain, psychomotor, and affective domain. Especially if we want to connect with the Bloom taxonomy with Salmon Model, I try to focus on the cognitive level. Bloom's taxonomy try to leveling about the cognitive of students, starting from remembering, and then understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So remembering is the lowest cognitive level. Yeah. Yeah. For example, just recognize and recall the facts. And the highest level of cognitive skills is creating, because creating is most difficulties goal for students to achieve. Because with this creating, yeah, just thinking new things, uh, students are encouraged to combine parts to make a new whole. For example, with Salmon Model, because we can see the case, the inquiry processing. For example, research and note taking uh, is involved in the substitution and augmentation. This kind of activity are intended to improve their teaching learning process. And then for analyzing, evaluating, and creating cognitive levels. So the Salmon model contribute to modify and redefinitions about the cognitive levels of students. With sharing and publish, it indicates that student can understand something, can evaluate something, and then finally share and publish his finding or his studies. Okay, this is the relation between Bloom's taxonomy and the Salmon model. Ladies and gentlemen, another framework that educators need to understand is the Tpec framework. Yeah, what is the Tpec framework? Tpec means technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. So this framework describes the knowledge that the teacher can integrate technology into their teaching. And Tpec framework is, combination or intersection among three kind of knowledge, from technological content knowledge, pedagogical content knowledge, and technological pedagogical knowledge. So three kind of knowledge can be combined by the teacher to get the goal of education. So you can learn the from Tpec website. In that website provides a large collection of free resources for teacher and other instructional leaders. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to say that technology integration is the use of technology tools in general content areas in education in order to allow, yeah, to allow students to apply computer and technology skill to learning and problem solving. Okay, why the technology is so important in supporting teaching learning? As we know that we are now facing the disruption era, industrial revolution 4.0, and then there are shift mindset from 21st century skills to 21st century teaching or learning experience. As the comparison, you can see in the column, right columns, the kind of activity, the kind of goal in the 21st century. So the learner center comes from teacher directing. And then the essential part of 21st century, so high order thinking skills, or skill, collaborative skills, and communication. They are very important for students um, to find or to face the disruptive era. Yeah, like during pandemic. So this is the mindset from the teacher to achieve their goals. So 21st century is very important here. 21st century skills very important for teacher and students. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned before, there technology is very important part to support teaching and learning. And this slide, I would like to introduce about the engineering or technology in which this engineering encourage higher order thinking skills. As you have seen in the cognitive level of Bloom's taxonomy, so engineering encourage how to student can be capable of analyzing, evaluating, and creating. For example, the analyzing, the teacher can identify, yeah, and write the purposes, yeah, in delivering content to identify design problem, organizing ideas, developing data representation, and so on. And then for evaluating, the keyword is choosing, debating, deciding, testing, assessing, yeah, and many others. In evaluating, the student can compare the entity between between A, B, or C on other entities. And the creating is most difficult because with creating is generates new ideas, and then designing solution, hypothesizing, constructing, redesigning. This keyword that teacher can use in conducting teaching learning process by engineering. Yeah. Okay, then therefore engineering is interdisciplinary. Engineering is a great way to reinforce content or learning content in subject areas, not only about this technology, but supported by science, mathematics, language, art, social studies, or history. That's why now the teacher in school promote the new technology, the new methodology we can call the STEM learning, right? The methodology comprised of science, technology, engineering, and math combined to achieve the educational goal. Yeah. We cannot only use focus in one side, but we need to find other perspective, yeah, to achieve the goal in education. So that's why technology or engineering is interdisciplinary. Then talking about the engineering, so this is about applications. This activities help students answer the age-old question, when will I ever use that? Untuk apa gitu ya? Seperti itu. And the engineering activities let students experience hand-on application of concept learned in other subjects. Because I believe that capable of hands-on application will improve his theory, his concept. Yeah, there is no dichotomy about the concept and application. I think application comes from the theory, and hands-on application is very important for engineering, for technology. And these activities allow teachers to become facilitator of knowledge in learning process. Yeah. And don't forget, in the activities, the teacher can find the work collaboratively among the students. That is the main point, the collaborative and communications and high order thinking skill. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I would like to talk about the IEEE resources. Yeah, talking about IEEE resources, I think so much contribution that IEEE served to the community in the world. Unfortunately, until present, it hasn't yet to reach our society level. So with these resources, you can learn everything about the technology, about the latest technology. For example, we can access the IEEE Explore Digital Library. This website is intended for researchers also to publish their research and then share the research with others. We can publish our experiment in technology, especially in electrical engineering, electronic engineering, computer engineering, communication, and so on, in this in journal, yeah, collected by IEEE Explore, or some proceeding, yeah, comes from the conference organized by IEEE. Then we can learn something about the news event streaming using IEEE.tv. You can install in the Google Play. And then IEEE Data Port. In this IEEE Data Port, so we can access online platform to enable easily share, access, and manage data sets. So we can learn the result from other researchers or other authors. Then, of course, Try engineering, this website that I would like to explain later more. And then IEEE Learning Network. IEEE Learning Network is platform to find IEEE continuing education. In this website, we can learn about the career development, yes, power and energy, emerging technologies, telecommunication, English for engineering, and so on and so on, and many other IEEE resources. But from this event, this moment, I would like to expand my understanding to explain about the try engineering. Okay, I hope amongst of you have accessed www.tryengineering.org. This website is a resource for students, their teacher, parents, and school counselor. And then this website also have benefits to including engineering concept and design principles. And sure, with this website, we can find some ideas, the way to integrate engineering concept and design principle into our classroom instruction. Then, this is the more important thing. Sample lesson plans come from tryengineering.org. We can explore the lesson plan, match with our interest, and how to conduct and how to implement in our teaching and learning process. Okay, in this website, so we got the information about the engineering disciplines and careers, and then profiles of practicing engineers and engineering students, the opportunity for students, university find a lesson plan. Of course, this lesson plan have been reviewed and approved by teachers and engineers. And then we can interactive questions, interactive games, and printable like engineering today newsletter. So this is the popular topics that we can access from Try Engineering. We can learn about the curricula. We can learn about the STEM learning. We can learn about the robotics, Try Engineering Summer Institute, game, students competition, possibility funding, and so on and so on. So I suggest you later, you can try to access this website. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so talking about the lesson plan, because this lesson plan or rencana pembelajaran or RPS ya in Indonesia, rencana pembelajaran lesson plan in Thai engineering makes it easy to teach engineering concept. Because this lesson plan not only intended for pre-university level, but for university level. So you can find this lesson plan or you can contribute to design this lesson plan. Now more than 130 complete locus easy to implement lesson plans. And of course, its lesson plan is designed to be a complete roadmap that's easy to follow, no matter without respective of familiarity with the topic and aligns with educational standard. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the example of screenshot here of lesson plans, activities, and feature engineers. We can learn something here for the teacher in which you want to deliver some topics like transformer, solar power. Sorry, because I came from electrical engineering, so I try to choose this kind of topic. So like transformer, this lesson focus on transformer is one of the most important component in any electrical system. Solar power and so on and so on. So you can learn the lesson plan from this website. Okay, because the lesson plan shared by IEEE, it has been adapted. It has been adapted the engineering design process. Yeah, the engineering design process in the lesson plans featured by Engineering apply a multi-step process used by engineers to create solution events to complex problem efficiently. So engineering design process is the cyclus how to do such how to do such problem or to define a problem until redesign. Beginning from identifying problem or needs, so the student can be motivated to find the what we call research or consider requirement, and then propose solutions. I mean, propose solution, yeah, or identify the trade-off, and then this the creativity for from students to find the best solution, and then try to construct prototype, then test and evolve solutions, communicate, and finally redesign. So this cyclus teach us how to do an engineering design process. This cyclus adapted from Massachusetts Department of Education. Okay, why engineering design process so important in our lesson plan? Because we can try to do this procedure. Yeah, how to engineer design process can be conducted in teaching and learning process. First, for example, this justice divide into teams of 2 or up to 4 maximum. Okay. Then review the challenge and criteria and constraints, and then brainstorm possible solution. Yeah, we can sketch while the student brainstorm, and then choose best solution and build a prototype, then test, then redesign until solution is optimized. And finally, we together, teacher and student, can reflect as a team and debrief as a class. This is the engineering design process. And in this EDP, we can be learned with the term engineering habits of mind, or EHM. Engineering habits of mind teach us how engineering think every day, right? The core of this engineering mind about how to make things that work and making them work better. Starting from system thinking, right? Yeah, the whole perspective can be learned, can be adapted, and then adapt something, find a problem, and then find the creative problem solving and visualizing and improving. This is the core. Yeah, that should be improved in our thinking skills, especially in the engineering class or technology class, because engineering habits of mind is the core. Yeah, how to make work and making them work better. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I still have a time. I would like to show you about the sample lesson plan. I choose the topic about the LED, LEDs, and resistor. I think you, the teacher, um, are familiar with this topic. In this lesson plan, consists several stage, yeah, the systematic procedure to write in the lesson plan, starting from lesson focus and age, objective, and so on and so on. Yeah. For example, here LED, yeah, light emitting diodes. Yeah. This guy's component are more popular in your daily life as a lamp at home, the road, or the public places. Yeah. This lesson explores, as an example, LEDs and LED and resistor, and reviews the differences between parallel and series circuit design function. This lesson plan is intended for age levels 8 to 12. And then objectives, specific objective, the student will learn about LEDs, the applications, uh, then resistor and their functions, about the current flow and operational differences between parallel, predict outcome and draw conclusion, and about teamwork and working group. So we can check from this objective. These statements indicates about the highest cognitive level domain in taxonomy group. For example, learn about LED, the applications. Yes, we recall that application is one of high cognitive level. And then about the functions that student can analyze. And then differences. Yes, we can compare A and B, series and parallel. And then predict outcomes, that's creativity. Yeah. Draw something, draw conclusion. And besides that, we can build the teamwork and working in groups. This objective comes from the highest level of cognitive skills from Bloom's taxonomy. This is very important for the teacher, for educators, I think. Yes, another one's anticipated learning outcomes. We need to find some possibility learning outcomes. And then lesson activities. This is the procedure that students should conduct. And then, of course, the lesson plan is designed for classroom only, yeah, with supervision by a teacher familiar with electrical and electronic concept. And we can try to align to curriculum framework after you download and then learn and try to match with curriculum. Or we propose this lesson plan to the teacher in order to involve in the existing curriculum. Yes, LED and resistors, yeah, is a remedy. LED or light emitting diodes is a semiconductor device to emit light when activated. And then different chemicals give different LEDs their colors. Yeah. There are some red, blue, yellow, and other colors. But an resistor limits or resists the electrical current that flows through a circuit. The energy of the electron that passes through a resistor are changed to heat, air, or light. So less current is available to whatever device. For example, LED is next on this circuit. Of course, students are encouraged to understand, to remembering about the how to calculate or identify the resistor value, right? Because this is an important skill when building a circuit. As you know, resistors component are indicated by the color, yeah, printed in bands of some combination, black, brown, red, orange, yellow, and so on. Indonesia, so using mnemonic, the student or teacher easily remember about the ranges of colors. He told me, orku, he, abu, like that. Yeah. But special for me, I can try to find another thing how to remember this arrangement of the color. Yeah. HCMOKHBUAP, ya, hanya cinta membuat orang kelihatan hidup bahagia, untuk apa putus asa, like that ya, for Indonesia. Sorry, I try to explain in bahasa. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I would like to skip this slide. Then, yeah, another thing, the resources are available in the tri-engineering is IEEE Rich. IEEE Rich means rising engineering awareness through the conduit of history. So how the history of technology resources. Yeah, we can learn about something new, and then we can relate to the technology. Then finally, I'd like to give summary. So ladies and gentlemen, what I have mentioned before, there's education. Yes, from disruption to recovery during pandemic. So we need to continue our education process. Then the new pedagogy of teaching shift teaching pattern from local to global with the support of technological art. And of course, teacher needs to reinforce learning content in several subjects using interdisciplinary approach, like STEM approach. Okay, and of course, this is our point as IEEE will be a trusted source of educational services and resources to support lifelong learning. Thank you very much, Opi, for giving a time. Thank you for all participants, yeah, for attention, and terima kasih. Selamat pagi. Good morning.
Good morning. Terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much, Dr. Iwan. Very interesting presentation covering many IEEE resources for educational of technology. So with that, we will go ahead and turn time over to our second speakers, Professor Emeritus Chanche Lens Fung. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Prof. I'm sorry.
You did perfect. You did perfect.
Emeritus Professor Chanche Lens Fung was trained and worked as a Marine radio and electronic officer in Hong Kong during the 70s. He graduated with a BSc degree with first-class honors and a MA degree from the University of Wales, Institute of Science and Technology. His PhD degree was awarded by the University of Western Australia with a thesis on artificial intelligence and power system engineering supervised by late Professor Kit Wong. He has taught at the Singapore Polytechnic, Curtin University, and Murdoch University, where he was appointed Emeritus Professor in 2015. His roles have included Associate Dean of Research, Postgraduate Research, Director and Director of the Director of the Center for Enterprise Collaborative in Innovative Systems. He has supervised to completion over 31 doctoral students and published over 334 academic articles. His contributions can be viewed at IEEE Explore, ResearchGate, Google Scholars, and etc. Lance has been a dedicated volunteer for IEEE for over than 26 years in various positions in the chapter, Western Australia section, Australia Council, and the SMC Society and the Region 10 Executive Committee. Lance continues his research and supervision of postgraduate students, and his motto is, "Learning has no boundary." Okay, Prof. Lance Fung, the time is yours.
Okay, good morning, Selamat Pagi. Thank you very much for the opportunity and your very kind introduction. I'm really privileged and honored able to speak with you this morning. And I must tell you that today, being the beginning of August, this is my 51st presentation since May. And I have been quoting my motto that learning has no boundaries for many years. It has been posted. Hang on a second, it's mute.
Sorry.
Okay. Is it all right? Is it unmute already?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let me repeat again. Okay, thank you very much and good morning, Selamat Pagi. And thank you very much for the invitation. And I must say that this is truly my honor and pleasure. And also thank you so much for Professor Vishnu. And I have the pleasure and honor to listen to his talk last year in the IEEE Region 10 Humanitarian Activities Conference in Tpec, University of Indonesia. I'm really impressed with his performance and contribution. And I must take this opportunity, to thank, Dr. Iwan to give the presentation. I also learned so much from his presentation. And also from Alfie, it's easier for me to address you as Alfie, as the EA coordinators, IEEE Indonesia Society. And as I was mentioned earlier on, that this is my 51st presentation since May this year. And I must say that my motto that learning have no boundaries has been used on my website for many years. And truly, I would say that this year, even though we have a COVID-19 crisis, but I would say that my motto has now been truly materialized. And as far as today is concerned, I just quickly cover the IEEE Strategic Plan 2020 to 2025. I'll show you the focus we have from IEEE leadership point of view, that our focus is on education. And I also would like to point to the resources we have through the COVID-19 IEEE Resource Hub. Well, thank you, Dr. Iwan, for showing a part of it, which is the tri engineering, and which I will again I will also touch on that one as well. But I would also like to draw your attention to the IEEE tri engineering, the multilingual support, and also point to you some other resources like innovations at work. And just last week, IEEE Education Society have a live virtual conference. They have a couple of sections, and I believe it's most relevant. But it's really don't have enough time that we have 30 or 40 minutes today. So I'll just simply point to the areas whereby you can find it. And finally, I'll finish off by looking at the IEEE Collaborate Tag as regard to the community of education practitioners. I always believe that we in the education area, that I remember there's one saying, that if you give a man a fish, you only feed him for 1 day. But if you teach him how to fish, well, you'll feed him for his whole life. To a certain extent, I believe for us in the education, we take it as our calling, as our lifelong career. It's really important that we are nurturing and helping for the next generation. And then, well, I believe that we are not only just teaching them to fish, in a way that we are the fisher of man. That we are, well, I use the man is really not anything to do with gender, but really we are also helping them. We are also reaching out to them, and IEEE is exactly doing that. So in case that you haven't heard about me before, although I retired from Murdoch University, I'm staying in the Perth, Western Australia. We are really close by, we're only 1 hour times difference. And I would say it's coming to Indonesia, even closer compared to going to the East Coast of Australia. You can take a look at my profile, and I'm going to use some of my past student thesis, in particular related to the education section, the area and discipline. The whereby I hope that maybe you can find them useful. So you can take a look at my university website, Murdoch University Profile Lens Fung, then you'll be able to find this page. And my personal background, some of these, well, it has been shared earlier on. And I shared all these photos. Well, this is in 1974 when I started work on the ship. It's really close to 50 years ago. And I'm really amazed at how times have changed and how technology, well, have been changing for my lifetime. And I'm sure that you yourself experience the same thing as well. Just recall the first mobile phone you have, maybe a Motorola, maybe a Nokia, and now maybe using some other brands, and how it changed and how the facility and the features have changed over the years. So you just imagine right now we are teaching our children, our next generation. And by the time they come up, well, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years time, well, really the technology will change beyond our imagination at this moment of time. So we can only tell them and teach them how to become a lifelong learner. And I think that's much more important. So in a way that, well, I see my role today, it's not so much teaching you how to teach, because I believe all of you are professional teachers. You have your formal education training. Well, I admit that I didn't go through a proper training as a teacher. And I've gone through my engineering study, my PhD, and I go to teaching. I learned along the way as well. Even today, I admit I learned so much as well. But I just believe that our role is, and today's my role, is really try to point to those resources in particular within IEEE. And I hope that you can make good use of them, and also you can help your student to make good use of them as well. Well, I just highlight some of the thesis that whereby I see there's some certain correspondence to the topic we're talking about, education. Well, in 2017, well, my student from Thailand, they published the thesis, a study on the effectiveness of anomalous agent in computer-supported collaborative learning, well, for the facilitations of student learning and execution of team projects. That particular work was looking at how you use the avatar in the online environment. That the Asian student, because you know that they're quite shy, but even in the class, you know that you ask them to ask questions. A lot of them want to ask. They don't want to stand out. Even on the online situation, it could be the same as well. So his study was looking at how to make use of avatar so that the people can take away, well, from the identities. They don't be so shy. And it's quite interesting to find out the effect. And also another one, well, Ali, well, I think he's from Libya. Investigation of the effectiveness of the gesture-based learning system, well, mode. Another one, I always call Srilak, I call it Boom, also from Thailand. Effectiveness, well, of virtual experienced learning, well, for connective load reduction on traffic rules of education. Elena Lee, so this is Ali as well, and his investigation of the factors of adopting e-learning on the Libyan, well, higher education for learning and teaching. So you can see that even though that a lot of my publications are in the technical area, but I do have quite a number of them are in education areas as well. Well, Kuna Kwan, she is from Thailand, and right now she is hoping to go back to Thailand to start working in University of Hat Yai. Well, it's not exactly on teaching, but we use the intelligent recommendation framework for student counseling management for Thai private universities. So mainly we use the computational technology, some form of a big data. And I have another one, COVID, again, he's from Thailand, a framework for adapting educational computer games in the undergraduate courses for the Thai universities for learning and teaching. Another one, Linda Lee, well, she was from Malaysia, and currently now she got a job in Curtin University in Perth. Investigation into effectiveness of virtual reality based learning. That was published in 2011. So what I'm trying to say is, well, I personally have been involved with education and teaching and looking at different technology as well. And all these theses are freely available on our website. So you're more than welcome to download them. So even if you take a look at my Google Scholar performance, well, my second most cited paper actually was together with Linda and my ex-student, Professor Kevin Wong. Well, how does a desktop virtual reality enhance learning outcomes, a structural equations modeling approach? And that was published in 2010, 10 years ago. And you got one of the highest citations. Another one is perceived use, ease of use and perceived usefulness of social media for e-learning in Libyan higher education. So that was my third. Another one is the similarity and differences between learn through play and entertainment. Interestingly, that was 2006, and that was a master thesis. He was from Singapore. So a lot of these papers you can also find from my profile in the Murdoch website. You can download the paper as well if they're open access. Another one, the relationship between game genre, learning techniques and learning styles in educational computer games. So we were the first school in Western Australia to launch the games course, and then also we did the research at that time using computer games, etc. So you can see the technology have changed, and you can see even some of those papers are being cited well over the years. Even this one published 2010 years ago is still cited up to now, 283. This one is also being cited, published in 2016, and the other one is published in 2006. And as 14 years on, is still being cited. So you can see that education is really important, that people still making use of the resources. And I encourage you that not just simply be a teacher, well, you can also be a teaching researcher as well. There are a lot of opportunity to share your finding, to share your knowledge and know-how. Okay, so that's quite enough for myself. I'm not really trying to use it as some kind of a promotion, but I just really want to share with you some of the work that my students have done. And I hope that it could be of use to you. Well, coming back to the IEEE strategy plan, the 2020 to 2025, well, you can see some of the key points in here. You can download these from our IEEE website. Collaboration through the sharing of knowledge, public understanding of engineering and technology, be a trusted source of educational services and resources. Well, provide opportunities for career and professional development, and building, well, communities among the worldwide audience. I'm really proud and honored to be associated with IEEE that we're doing all these. And I must say that you, every one of you in the audience, in the education, well, career and discipline, you're doing exactly that as well. So IEEE is really across all the major boards within IEEE. In case you're not too aware of what I mean by that, we have 6 major boards within IEEE. Educational activities is one of it. And we have others like standards, technical activities, membership and geographical activities, publications, and IEEE USA. You can see the Education Activities Board. C itself is really encompass the whole spectrum of IEEE in here. And we also see that IEEE for education is not limited just to the university, as people think that, oh, it's only aiming to the university student. That is not true. Well, we cover from the pre-university. You have already heard about the tri-engineering, the STEM education, and that is one of our main focus. And then we also have a young professional, and this is where our continuing education aims to serve. We also have our advanced and mid-careers for professionals. Those are the ones that are also involved, and they also contribute a lot through other activities, like being on the editorial board, on the technical working teams, on the technical committees, and also the retired professional. And I do believe that this is a major source, and you have quite a good number of members in the Indonesia section, they're live members. And I do believe that their experience and knowledge are tremendous. Well, we should really encourage and also provide opportunities to make use of them, but help them to mentor and nurture the next generation. So now come back to the resources. Well, I would, first of all, would like to point to the IEEE COVID-19 resources. And this one is under Spectrum. And a lot of this information are free of charge. Now, even though that we have the ILN, whereby Iwan has already mentioned earlier on, but unfortunately, some of those, well, may be a bit costly. And I'm in the process of trying to negotiate with IEEE, see how we make it much more affordable. But nevertheless, if you take a look at the web page, just simply search IEEE COVID-19 resources. You go into the Spectrum page, and you see there's one particular icon, go to free resources. So if you click onto that one, what you see is on the free resources page. Under the free resources page, you can also see a number of roles, assuming that you might be in. You might be practicing engineers, you might be educators, parents, researchers, students, or maybe all. And I'm assuming that you are under the educators category. You click on that one, you come to a number of these items. They could be tools, they could be resources. If you take a look at the first two that I've seen last night, you're talking about reach. So I'm going to come back to this one, and Iwan has already introduced this one briefly. So we can talk about there are free educational resources to help the parents and the teachers. There are free resources for the homeschooling. And I was told that even some university faculty members, professors, they also use the materials in their courses as well. And also the virtual conference. This is the one I'm going to mention very briefly later on in my talk today, and talk about the free virtual conference on effective remote instruction. Well, putting the lecturers and the teachers suddenly, from the traditional face-to-face classroom lab environment into remote is really a big challenge for a lot of them. Although me personally in Australia, it's not too uncommon to us, because in Australia we have been doing things like remote, because partly even within Australia itself, we have such a big areas. We have a classes running by remote. We also have our campuses over the other countries as well. Like Murdoch University, we have our campus in Singapore, in Dubai, in Malaysia. And then so it's not unusual to us. But nevertheless, if completely cut off from the face-to-face, it has been a big challenge. So we do have this one. So I'm going to share this briefly. And I do believe, I think 5 or 6 sessions of the recordings are being made available on demand. So you're more than welcome to check on that. And I'm going to use this one for the robot to show you some examples, some of these tools that we have. So I'm going to highlight on this one. So if you click on this one, you'll be able to come to this page, and it's talk about the robots. So this one is quite appropriate. For the pre-university student, you will be able to download a document, I think around 14 or 15 pages. And these are some examples you will see. You will see there's a copy saying that, complete the activities using the robot guide. And then I'll just introduce. And I believe that this one mainly is for the, maybe for the primary school students. And it's just some games in there and trying to use identifying the points, parts of it. So these are very good, conversation starter, to help the student interest in robots. So I'll leave it to you to explore the rest. Reach we have already mentioned. So I'm going through a little bit more detail of what you can find in Reach. Reach stands for Raising Engineering Awareness Through the Conduit of History. So it is really going back to the fundamental. I believe it's very important for every one of us to go back to our fundamentals. We know where do we come from. Same thing applies to the technology, because from there you get a better understanding and appreciation. And most important, I believe, for us as teachers and engineers, we must know not only just where we come from, but we also need to know what are the limitations. It's very important. So sometimes people are expecting technology too much, and it is not, technology is not the answer. I believe ultimately is the human, is our passion, our compassion. The student can see through it, they can feel it, and that's how we can help them. So if you go into this Reach page, this is what you see. They have something what they call the inquiry units. So if you scroll on that page, you will see a list of those units available. So I'm using some example. So this is just 2 examples to illustrate. They got the drones, they have the radio. So as you can see, this is the old-time radio. I was a radio officer, and that was the time I was using Morse code, listening to the da-da-da-da-da, those kind of communication. And then they have a new thing as well, drone. But I'm using drone as an example. So you may think that, oh, drone, it's not new, it's not history. But really, you'll be surprised. If you go to that particular unit, you will see, it's information. And most of the units are being organized this way. They have some kind of background information to start off, some kind of conversation starter that you can download the whole units. They have quite comprehensive setup, well, with the materials, lesson plan, supplementary information. So they give you the downloadable background information. So if you click on that, you'll be able to get the PDF file, explain the background, where it's come from. A lot of them, they also come with a video. Okay, those video of this one from the Civil War to today. Now, I do understand there's one issue we have right now is the language, because you must bear in mind that the materials was originally created with the US educators in mind. So most of them are in English. So we still, I'll share later on that talk a little bit how tri-engineering and certain extent of translation is now available. But we still have a bit of challenge in how we do the subtitle of the video. And I'm more than welcome that for participation to go into a project or try to address this issue. So again, you have some other supporting questions. So if you scroll on to that page, you will find all this information. They're extremely useful. Well, if you simply want to run a class or you want to have a workshop and talk on some specific topics. So you can also go into this page and down to some other resources. And this link actually, it goes back to tri-engineering. So you make use of the tri-engineering workshops and all those things, and you can have another worksheet, another work on this particular topic. Now, I'll come back to tri-engineering. I know that Iwan has mentioned about that. But one of the very important development lately on tri-engineering, I'd like to draw your attention to the upper right-hand corner in here. There's something called select language. If you click on that one, if you pull it down, I'm not too sure you notice the difference or not. I have selected Indonesian, and then the web page has been translated in the language. Now, I have to admit all these are machine generated. Well, IEEE paid the top money to get the best Google Translate tool. Are they 100%? Answer, no. I'm pretty sure that, you'll be amused sometimes some of the translations, may not be 100% correct. But really, we can do, we can contribute, later on to improve it. Well, I'm going to talk about that later on as well as one of our IEEE Region 10 project called Reaching Locals. I'll come to the very end to talk about that. So again, if you scroll down, you will see that some of the materials is still in English. Well, we are still addressing this. Although you see the topic in here is already translated into Indonesian, and I hope they're correct. Okay, I can't check, I can't tell because I can't read Indonesian. But nevertheless, you will see some of this. You will see Rich is one of it, and also talk about the robot website. This was the one I used earlier on, and also the high school and the school, secondary school. So if I click onto that one and go to Rich, now you can see this one is still in English. Again, under this one, now not under the Rich, if you go to the Rich website, you may not be able to see it. You have to go through the IEEE tri-engineering, then you come to this one. So it's under the platform of the tri-engineering website. And then they provide you with the select language. If I do the same thing again, can you see it? It changed already. Okay, so what I've done is I did a pull down menu, training, and we have over 100 languages has been put in now. Okay, again, as I said, please don't say that they're not perfect. I know they're not perfect, but we are making the first step. So we are really reaching out to the community. So you can see in here, again, I will rely on you, as a native language speaker, that you can provide us the feedback that how can we improve the translation. And this is really important. But right now, we can see that now you can reach out to your primary school, you can reach out to the grandparents, you can reach out to the parents of those school children, then let them aware of the technology and the resources we have in IEEE. So same thing applied to here. As you scroll down, so you can see in here and how we provide the COVID-19, the resources for e-learning, etc. So I strongly encourage you to take a look and play around with it and provide us some feedback. And also, if possible, try to use it in your classes. So you can see these are the same 2 pages early on we see, and those are the tri-engineering translated. And I hope they're correct in the Indonesian Bahasa, Indonesian language for you. Okay, so this is what I have shared from the tri-engineering and Reach and also the multilingual platform. And also there are some others for the practicing engineers for the continuing education. And also I assume some of you among the audience, so might be in the university level, or maybe lecturers, or you may be looking into a career in the university. So I have already mentioned that the transition well, from the face-to-face to the online at the beginning part, well, have really thrown a lot of people in the deep water. But nevertheless, IEEE has provided free webinars to support the academic faculties how to transit to distant learning. So you can see some of these, and they are being added to IEEE Innovation at Work. So this is the website I would strongly recommend you take a look. And not only in the education and online teaching, we also have information on technical aspects. So like this one, talk about 5G, 4G, and IoT, talk about digital twins, talk about student and the child data privacy. So this one's something to do, well, with the ethics and the protection of the data. And you have the Try Engineering Live. So some of these have happened before already. And I'm not too sure, well, are they available video on demand, but you can check it out. So similar to some others, so using gaming devices to stay connected, future neurotherapeutics as well. So now let's come to the another part now. So I have already mentioned that IEEE Education Society. And though the Education Society is not the same as the Educational Activities Board. Education societies, where Dr. Iwan is the chair, local chair of the chapter, is a technical society. And the Education Activities Board is one of the major boards within the IEEE organizational structure. And then Region 10 is the Education Activities Committee. Is the one that aim to, well, make the sections aware of all the activities. So if you take a look, if you go to that particular website, and I think the link is available through the Innovation at Works and also from the COVID-19 hub, well, from Spectrum. If you click on that one, this is the page you will see. Well, unfortunately, it's already passed last week. I attended 5 of those and even got a certificate, and they're very useful. You can download the materials and the slides as well. So I'm just using 2 of these as an example. So as you can see from the website, you can see the title like Ditching Traditional College Lecture in Remote Instruction and Making Labs Effective with Remote Learning, Making Remote Student Teams, Student Assessment, Student and Data Privacy, and Self-Assessment, the remote teaching methods, okay? So they're supposed to be available on demand. I haven't checked it, but you can go to take a look and explore it yourself. So I'm using 2 of these as an example, then you can anticipate what you will see. So in the first one, on the first day, they got a Ditching Traditional Lecture in Remote Instruction. So this one was being shared by Professor Susan Lord, Professor and Chair of Integrated Engineering, University of San Diego, USA. So she highlighted, well, what we expected to receive from this particular session to describe the key features of a good learning objectives, explain the psychological needs, the driving motivation, and the active learning techniques, and how to make formative assessment and strategy to make your online classes more inclusive. So you can see that IEEE are providing the resources from our experts, from our members, and from the professionals as well. So these are some examples of the slides. But for effective instruction, you have to consider enhancing motivation, incorporating active engagement, designing effective assessment, adopting an inclusive mindset. So really it goes from the motivation, engagement, assessment mindset. Is a holistic approach, not just some simple techniques looking at how to use a Zoom. It's far more than that. You need to do your planning, you need your assessment. There's some example talk about how this psychological needs to drive the motivation. Some of these will go back to the psychological background. And talk about the assessment. Diagnostic assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment. So I'm skipping a lot of slides because, as I said, it is not really my presentation, but I'm just highlight some of these resources which are available. And then you develop clear, measurable learning objectives. Consider motivate them in incorporating enhancement, engagement, assessment, and the inclusive mindset. There was another one, making the labs effective with remote learning. Well, this one was shared by a few leaders within IEEE as well. Russ Meyer, and he is the current president of the IEEE Education Society. I have the pleasure working with him in the conference committee and also in the EAB board as well. Stephen Phillips, he is currently the vice president of the Educational Activities Board. He just come on board early this year. And again, I met him early this year in IEEE headquarters for the EAB meeting series. And we got an AC, well, Yapa, I do not know her personally, but she is part on the ABET. ABET is doing the accreditation board, well, engineering and technology. So this is what they share. So again, I'm using just part of it. So they're talking about the importance, well, of the remote lab scaffolding. You have to have the content blocking. What it means is you have to break down your content. Task skeletonization, you need to provide the skeleton, well, to support them. But direct reading, active quizzing, simulation exercises, and the use of remote lab kits. Okay, so it's really quite comprehensive, not only just one single part. Well, you have to really looking into the design and also to provide facilities as well. So these are some of the examples to illustrate what does it mean by each of these. Using problem-based activities. Content blocking, you need to divide it into individual grading parts so that you can help you with the assessment. You have the skeletonization, the partial solution to mimic, well, the proximity mentorship. Direct reading. So you have to stop until the reading is completed, so they're not allowed to skip through it. Active quizzing, so make sure that the students are engaged along the way. Simulation, so they can do the data collection, and remote student kit. This one may be a bit of a challenge because they may incur costs to the university or maybe to the school and also to the students. So there are a number of ways that they have done. So there's how to make it. You need to write the direct readings or create a personalization video, engineering the product, design and write the quizzes, and configure the progression rule. So in other words, you need to have a better plan of your progress in the lab. And this is an example how they use the remote learning and through the lab. So there are a number of options. Or it could be an institution owns the kit and lends it out. It could be a student buy the kits from the institution, the student buy the kit from the manufacturer, or the student use the remote lab. Okay, so again, I'm going to share with another speaker and how they use the remote lab as well. So as I said, this is the challenge whereby the cost is involved. So, but at least nowadays, you can get the comparatively cheaper kits on board now. So this is from I think from Professor Stephen Phillips, and talk about how they make use of the digital analog. Earlier on, I remember I saw Iwan's slide looking at the breadboard. Okay, it's good old breadboard. Well, I used it for over 40 years ago, and it's still available. And also the kit of all the components. Okay, you've seen a similar setup of the LED and the resistors demonstration. And then for the bigger one, then maybe you really need to use the virtual reality, well, simulation and CAD. Okay, so that may be using remote access to all those things. And then, well, this one is from AC, and I mentioned that she is the one, how they make use of the Zoom and Teams, and mainly the two remote lab, they're talking about simulation and also the hardware. On the simulation, they have the virtual desktop infrastructure lab. So the environment is 100% identical to the computers in the College of Engineering labs. So, and also they use the hardware as well, so they can access to the real hardware. So some of the German university open up their hand-ons, remote FPGA, okay, the field programmable gate array labs using during the coronavirus. So they can get the development board for the semester and gain experience with the real hardware. So if you are really in the university level, then maybe this is something you might have to consider, and there might be costs involved as well. So I think I'm using two, and then I'll stop at that because I encourage you to take a look, and I know that my time is coming up as well. Coming to the last part is the community. So you have seen that how IEEE provide the resources through the Try Engineering, Reach, and also through the live conferences, like what you have seen just now. But more importantly, we also have another venue for the community. We call it Collaborate Tech. This is even free to non-IEEE member. You can just simply sign up or have an account. If you go to the website, this may be something you see. Now, maybe yours may not be exactly the same as mine because, I have my personal personalizations. It might be slightly different. But nevertheless, when you go into the Collaborate Tech, this is what you see. I would like to draw attention to community. So if you click on that one, now in my case, it's a bit different because I have already participated in a number of those. And then also they recommend some of this community that I may be able to learn. And you can see some of the examples in here: African Technology Network, All Society Tech, Artificial Intelligence, Asia Pacific Technology Network, a lot, big data, etc. So in this case, I'm assuming that I've already joined some of those. So I highlight the one I have joined, 6 of them. In here, you highlight that I have joined artificial intelligence, blockchain, community of practice for educational activities, etc. And I'm going to highlight this one. This is the one I'm referring to because I'm assuming that you among the audience are the practitioner of educational activities. So if I highlight that one, if I click that one, I visit the community, this is what I'll see. So you will see that in the community, you will see the posting of what's going on. And this is exactly the live conference that I mentioned earlier on. Okay, so we just highlight the events coming up. And on top of that, I just post another one, which is coming up shortly by this weekend on the 8th of August. Is IEEE Code of Ethics and the Global Initiative of Ethics for Autonomous and Intelligent System. And we have a number of speakers. Well, Professor Ramesh, he was the vice president 3 years ago, okay, 2016 to 2017. John Haven, he is the executive director for the IEEE Global Initiative Ethics of Autonomous and Intelligent System. Greg Anderson, he is from Melbourne in Australia. He has been the chair of the social implication of technology for society. You see a group of people. Okay, so you are more than welcome. And this is the poster that we have. Time, I know it's a bit late. It's going to be around maybe 9 o'clock your time. It's 10 o'clock our time. But I have to take into account of the people over the West Coast. They are maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, okay? So nevertheless, I encourage you to come and take a look. Okay, my time is slightly out now, so I'm going to finish off as a summary. So we all realize that COVID-19 has caused a major disruption to every one of us, you and I, lockdown, all the effects, etc. In particular, education has changed so much. So IEEE has already responded very swiftly in providing resources and support to the educators and the community through various platforms. So I used the COVID-19 Resource Hub as an example. You're more than welcome to make good use of those information. And I'll use some other sources like the IEEE Innovation at Work and also the IEEE Live Conferences. They provide sessions to equip the professionals for transit to online delivery, lab and assessment, etc. And last but not the least, so now I come back to the one I showed you earlier on, our multilingual tri-engineering. Within IEEE Region 10, we do realize that within our Asia Pacific region, we have so many countries, even within Malaysia, even in Indonesia. I'm aware that actually within your country, even though you have Bahasa Indonesian as your national language, if you go to Java, you've got people speaking Javanese. And then if you go to other part, they may speak some other local language. And when I go into Malaysia, they also told me if they go to East Malaysia, they go to Kalimantan, they go to Sabah, again, they have the local languages as well. So I believe IEEE can enter into our next phase of reaching out to the locals through the local languages. And the tri-engineering is a starting point. We provide a multilingual platform, online translation. But ultimately, I expect and I invite the members to participate, that you can start reaching out to your local members, or running events, or having webinars, and also providing the materials in the local languages as well. After all, technology has no nationality, has no culture, religions, background. We are all the same. We are all on the same planet. So I hope that we can make use of it for the benefit of the humanity. So thank you very much for your attention. And may I pray that your classes will be enhanced and empowered by the IEEE resources and technologies. Okay. So I thank you for your attention, and I stop my sharing now and pass the time back to you, Alfie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Emeritus Lance Fung. All right, I guess we have a few questions here. We're going to move on to questions and answer session. So the first question is from Irma Yulia Basri from UNP Padang. Actually, it's kind of a little bit not in the scope of your talk. She asked what kind of efforts a writer can do to produce articles that can be published in the IEEE journal.
As a matter of fact, I might push a buck to Professor Vishnu, and because Professor Vishnu has been so productive in publishing the paper, it's really impressive. I would say that about IEEE journals and conferences, we do have our process where you need to go through the submission. And if you go for individual journals, because we have so many journals within IEEE, you have to identify which is the one you're interested in and find out what is the requirement and take a look at those articles. I do not encourage that you publish just for the sake of publishing. But publishing is really you want to share and disseminate your knowledge and finding. So I would say that first of all, start reading all those journals. And also if you haven't published in journal before, then I would advise you to start publishing in conferences before you go to journals. Because when you publish in conference, give you the opportunity to have the feedback and also you can improve it. So maybe can I read the question as well? I can read the second question from I guess T. What is the biggest challenge of remote learning and how to overcome it? So maybe I try to drag in Iwan. So Iwan, you want to answer this question? So you're mute. Your mic is mute. Please unmute it.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Fung. Talking about the challenge, challenge in the remote learnings. My perception is not only from one aspect, but also from everything that should be prepared for successfully activating remote learning. For example, from student, from teacher, school managerial, and then from technology, administration, and so on and so on. So I think, firstly, we are encouraged to train for students to learn about the remote learning system, and also for the teacher, they should be capable of how to deliver the learning content and then how to use the technology for delivering the content. And then the policy is very important from school administration, from ministry, how to make the remote learning is very, very successfully in this area. And of course, about the supporting technology, yes, it's very, very important, because without technology, I think it's nonsense. Yeah, technology will guide, will conduct the successfully remote learning activities. I think that's my point. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can add on a few more. So I can see that in terms of the remote learning, Dr. Iwan has already mentioned about technology. I do see that one of the challenges you might have over your side is maybe the availability of the equipment and infrastructure. Because it's not only you, even we ourselves in Australia, no doubt people may look at it, oh, you're Australia very rich, etc. But if you consider you have a family of 4 or 5, okay, you have a number of children, and then not necessarily every family are able to provide the computer to every single student. So if you imagine you have 3 or 4 children in the primary school, in the secondary school, in the university, and each one of these have to rely on online, and that is one of the major problems we're facing. And second is in terms of the infrastructure, you're talking about the internet speed and all those things, so that's another one. But from the university point of view, I'm more concerned, and especially I heard from my colleague, is from the assessment point of view. Because, we also observe, not all, but some cheating is going on when they do the online assessment. The main reason behind it is because, unlike when you have the face-to-face classes, you have everyone sit together, have a supervised assessment with invigilator, with examiner, but not in the case of online situation. So they are doing on their own. And then invariably, some very smart, I use a quotation, very smart student, they find way out to beat it. And actually, my colleagues told me that they find out, even they try to do a lot of things, they jump off the question. And some of them, they even post those questions onto some website and then pay money to try to get the answer. This is one example. And some of them, they set up a separate chat channel so they can share the answers among themselves. So everyone come back with exactly the same wrong answer. So, but to me, what is the problem in here? The problem is not really how we're going to make any more better ways to monitor them. But I think go back to the fundamentals. Really, go back to the ethics. Because for us, being engineers, when they're trained to be the next generation, they need to do things with integrity. They shouldn't cheat. And I think that more important to teach the children and make sure that they don't cheat is much more important than giving them the technology. So this is why I'm quite passionate lately that you may or may not know that there's another webinar I'm running on the 8th of August. We talk about ethics. I think just now, I think I showed you a little bit already. And I think this is much more important as well. Just because, well, people are not seeing you, that you're not supervised, that you can do things underneath because the camera is not showing you. And that is not right at all. So I rather to have more emphasis on that part. And to me, that's more challenging. And that's much more, bigger threat to our society, that people are not able to do things ethically. And that's my thinking. Okay, I hope I answered that question. Is there any other question? There's another one, I think, asking about the membership, isn't it?
Yes. Maybe you could elaborate more, Prof. Fung, about, or
I would push back to your Indonesia section membership development coordinator. But I think it's very simple. Just take a look at IEEE.org. Well, if you are a student, if you are in a college with a course which is within the IEEE field of interest, you're eligible already. And of course, if you are applying for the membership, they'll take a look. It depends on your qualification. But as I said, really your local section. And I've seen an Indonesia section is doing a tremendous job, recruiting and promoting the membership. So I would just direct it back to the local officers. So,
okay, Ms. Opi, I would like to
yes,
add the questions from Irma. Yeah, from
please do first.
What kind of effort a writer can do to produce articles? IEEE also give some tips and strategy, and also give some information for the author. So there are the author digital tools that you can find in the IEEE website. In that author digital tools, so we can find the author guide, interactive English, how to supply graphic to the IEEE, and then preparation of paper for IEEE transaction, style manual, and then etc. etc. So beside the manuscript that already to publish, but we need to comply with the IEEE rules and the guideline of the journal. So IEEE out of the digital tools is the information that can be learned from the IEEE to publish. Okay.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Actually, if you go to a conference, then you will receive something like the guideline telling you that you have some kind of a template. Okay, you need to follow all the presentations in terms of the fonts and the line spacing, all those things. But to me, those are really cosmetic. Okay, but you need to conform to all those, because otherwise you will not be able to get accepted. But most important is really go back to the fundamental reason of what you want to publish and why you want to publish it. And also you need to take a look and learn from other authors what they published in the first place. Okay, so I would strongly encourage you. Maybe I'm pretty sure that within Indonesia section, you do have a lot of local events. So take a look at the local events, local conferences, and have a go from that one. And good luck and congratulations on the intention to publish. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lance Fung. There is someone who raised his hand. Muhammad Fikri, are you there? He's not there. Okay. He raised his hand early on, I guess during Mr. Iwan presentation. Seems like he would like to ask something, but now I allow him to talk, but he's not there anymore, I think. Okay. Is there anything both of you would like to say before the wrap up?
And then I want to go first. I want to go ahead and then.
Iwan?
Yes.
Would you like to say something before the wrap up?
Okay.
Sebelum kita tutup.
Yes, baik. Thank you very much for all audience, for all participants. So I'm very happy because this time we can share, we can communicate each other during pandemic, especially how to improve our teaching and learning process. And I hope what I mentioned in the presentation can be such ideas to you, yeah, to implement, yeah, if good and if great, please. And I think we also ready to discuss every time. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for attention. Yeah.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, once again, may I say that thank you very much, and it has been an honor and pleasure to be here with you. And even though that we are, well, I would say that maybe a couple of months ago, we never expect we'll be able to have this opportunity. Because last time, whenever we want to organize a meeting, physical meeting, you have to organize so many things, like the venue, like the travel and the schedule, everything. But now with the online situation, actually it facilitates us and help us so much and link us together. You may not know that many years ago, our IEEE motto right now is advancing technology for humanity. But years ago, it was networking the world. Networking the world. As a matter of fact, now it's happening. So using the internet not only just allow us to access or get all the information, but it also allow us to have some face-to-face meeting like this and share the information. I do believe that all of you in the education profession, and I must congratulate you for taking up. And honestly, I agree that it's not easy. And I have been, a lecturer for around 30 years in Australia, and before that I was in Singapore. And I witnessed that things have changed so much. And I have to admit that actually sometimes it's so difficult to catch up. I remember the first time looking at LMS, looking at Blackboard and looking at all those, even now I can't recall the names now. And you have to learn. We ourselves as educators, one thing we have to admit that we ourselves are learners ourselves. And we really need to learn so that we can share, so that we can teach the next generation. And more importantly, I learn from my students. Okay, well, maybe the students do not realize it. Actually, I learned so much from them because from the question they ask me, sometimes I'm being coached, I don't know the answer straight away. But when I go back, I do my homework, I find out. And also from my PhD students, and I tell every one of them, actually, they know more than me. If my PhDs come out, if my PhD students come out does not know more than me, then I consider myself as a failure because they are the ones should make contribution to knowledge. So I would strongly encourage every one of you, continue learning and also enable your students continue to learn as well. Learning have no boundary. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very excellent, Prof. Lance Fung and Dr. Iwan. Once again, I would like to thank you for both of you, the speakers, for sharing your insight, knowledge, and experience with us today here. And I also would like to thank you, Prof. Wisnu Jatmiko, for welcoming us here. And thank you everyone for the participants that has attended this webinar. It was a pleasure being with you today. And we appreciate you being here. Once again, thank you for joining us and see you next time.
Okay, terima kasih. And time for magang. Time for magang. Thank you, bye-bye. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Okay, enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof. Wisnu.
Thank you, Professor Wisnu.
Thank you,
Prof.
Thank you, Professor Wisnu.
I learned anything.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
And for all the participants, please fill the form for your certificates, and we will distribute your certificates and the link for the presentation slides via email after you fill the form. Thank you very much. Bagi para peserta yang hadir hari ini, silahkan mengisi form presensi yang linknya sudah saya masukkan di webinar chat. Slide akan kami kirimkan beserta sertifikat melalui email. Terima kasih.
Sudah oke. Finish, Mbak Novi dan
boleh Pak, boleh. Saya hanya menunggu peserta saja.
Thank you, it's very great job.
Thank you
Pak
so
Dr.
much.
Iwan and Mbak Ovi.
Terima kasih, Prof. Wisnu.
Saya
Terima kasih.
permit you leave this Zoom. Okay, thank you for
Ya.
everything. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Mbak Opi gimana? Sudah cukup? Nanti
Sudah,
kita lanjutkan
silakan.
diskusi ya.
Iya, Bapak. Terima kasih
Ya,
banyak.
sama. Ya, assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.